Hi, I'm Chike Coleman from the Wheelchair Watcher. That's Chuck Koplinski from the News Gazette and the Illinois Times. And this is Real Reviews, the Cinematic Underground, the show where we talk about movies that are new in theaters and sometimes TV shows. Chuck, it's been a crazy week this week.
It is? How come?
Just movies, and I had food poisoning, which is not the best thing in the world to have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did manage to get to see some movies and thought it would be a good time to have a show. So
Movies are good.
yeah. So this week I wanted to talk to you about the James Bobbin directed Alice Through the Looking Glass. This is a sequel to Alice in Wonderland, which came out about 2 years ago, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
With Mia, I don't know how to say her last name.
Wasikowski.
Yeah, Mia Wasikowski, Johnny Depp, Anne Hathaway. Let's see, I'm trying to get all of them, but I'm not going to be able to.
Helena Bonham Carter.
Helena Bonham Carter.
Anne Hathaway, you said. Alan Rickman did a voice.
Alan Rickman did a voice, yes. And the plot of this film is kind of interesting. You have Alice being a captain of her father's ship, but the guy that she answers to also wants to marry her. She doesn't want to marry him. And he's saying, if you don't marry me, then I'm just going to, take your house because things were signed over to me. And Alice is put in another emotional predicament, which sees her going to Wonderland. In that time, she meets all of her favorite friends, the Mad Hatter, the Cheshire Cat, the White Queen, the Red Queen, and this new thing called Time, who is inflicting some emotional damage on the Mad Hatter. And it's Alice's job, because she makes a decision that starts to make the mess even worse, to fix what's happened in Wonderland. I didn't like the stuff in Wonderland. It didn't appeal to me. I watched the original Alice in Wonderland, directed by Tim Burton recently, and it's almost too colorful for me. I like the segments outside of Wonderland, and like the fierceness of Alice, getting her independence from that, but I don't like the stuff inside Wonderland. That's my kind of catch. Is it just that this movie is not for people in my demographic? What's the deal here, Chuck? Did you like it? I don't know.
I don't know what your demographic is. Do you just like black and white films, or what? What are you talking about?
It's too overly saturated in terms of color for me.
That didn't strike you with the first one either?
No, I'm saying it did. I've never been a fan of it. I'm always a fan of the things that happen.
So which movie are we talking about? The first one or the second one?
We're talking about the second one. It was even worse for me in the second one. But I did feel bad for the Hatter, and I love the Mad Hatter's story in this film. So I do, in a weird way, kind of like it more than the first film, because you have an emotional component that, to me, makes sense. But as a whole, for the movie, I did not like all the oversaturated colors and the craziness. It's too much for me. It's like I'm on an acid trip. What did you think of Alice Through the Looking Glass?
I liked it. I understand what you're saying in regards to the differences as far as visually, as far as when we're in Wonderland and when we're in the real world. But I like the story in that, having to go back through time. And some of the visual things are just stunning, especially when Alice is with Time, played by Sacha Baron Cohen, and all of these pocket watches, which represent lives that are either still going on or have passed, and the way he has to maintain this seemingly infinite number of pocket watches, which represent lives, I thought was just a neat little concept. I think the movie takes a little bit too long to get going. It just kind of drags a little bit that first half hour, especially when we know that we need to get to Wonderland, and it seems to take a while to get there. Mm-hmm. But I tell you, Alice herself, the actress, I think if it weren't for her, neither of these movies would have any sort of appeal. She's very strong. You really root for her. She's an incredibly appealing heroine. That makes you stick with things perhaps a little longer than you should, because she's at the focal point of this.
The thing that I like about that actress is she has a lot of inner strength that she shows before she goes into Wonderland. Mm-hmm. And essentially when she goes into Wonderland, it's problem-solving time. Like, I have this predicament and I don't know how to get out of it. I'm a strong-willed human being, but I need a creative solution. It's like her mind palace in a way. Actually, you could actually
Did you say her mind palace?
Yeah, it's a phrase from the BBC's Sherlock. It's kind of her mind palace to figure out what she needs to do to advance to the next point of her life. And I really like that about her. Like you said, there's a certain strength to her. Sacha Baron Cohen's character is terrific as time. I love going back into the Hatter's history and seeing who he is as a character before all of this. That was an interesting idea that I loved seeing played with.
And there's a subplot there between the two queens as well.
Yeah, which is also nice. I can't say I can't not recommend this film because there are emotional components that for me work much better than in the first film. But it's still not going to be my favorite thing in the world to watch if they continue making sequels, and I kind of hope they do because this emotional exploration of the characters in Wonderland was far more intriguing here than in the first effort.
That's true, but this film has not done at the box office what the first one did. So I don't know whether they will make another one or not. I think as has become the case, it's going to be dictated by what happens overseas as far as the box office is concerned.
I would agree. I would completely agree there. So I think when I eventually write my review for it, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I haven't seen your review, but you probably rated it similarly.
A 3 out of 4.
Yeah. Okay, so the next movie that I wanted to talk about today, that I'm really excited to talk about because you're the one who recommended that we each individually go see this, is Popstar. This is the latest film from Andy Samberg and the Lonely Island company. The Lonely Island, for those of you who don't know, started off as a series of SNL digital shorts that Sandberg and the other 2 or 3 Lonely Island members starred in, along with special guest appearances by Justin Timberlake, which all started with a music video for a song called Dick in a Box. And from there, things just kind of exploded. There aren't any, very specific characters within the Lonely Island group that are reused. It's more of just catchy little, really raunchy ideas that play out in music video form. And the movie Popstar Never Stop Stopping is, again, one of those attempts, but in a longer form. We're introduced to this character named Connor For Real, which is obviously a play on Justin Bieber and the whole Never Say Never thing. A guy who basically has so much fun playing in the excess of being a musician and being the head of a group. I forget what the name of the group is, though. Why am I forgetting that?
Style Boys.
The Style Boys, which is a play on the Beastie Boys, obviously. And the idea that the Style Boys break up and Connor branches out on his own to be successful is something that mirrors kind of in sync a little bit. And we basically see Connor's trials and tribulations of being accepted as a solo artist and the issues that go along with that. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I laughed really, really hard at this movie. And yes, the jokes are obvious. It's kind of one of those movies where you just shut your brain off and enjoy it. And if you can do that, you're going to enjoy the heck out of this film. It's one of those films that really gives you an inside look into maybe possibly how the music industry works. I can't say that for sure. But in the sense that you understand that people sometimes are worse at their craft than they think they are, and have a lot of yes men. I really like the components where you are introduced to some of the songs that the Style Boys and Connor For Real does. The Equality song, for me, was the highlight because of the ridiculousness of something that Connor says repeatedly throughout the main chorus. That and catchphrase, to me, were highlights. Chuck, what did you think of Popstar Never Stop Stopping?
I liked it a great deal. On the surface, it appears to be just a dumb film, and there are a lot of dumb things in it.
Correct.
But once you scratch the surface, you think that you realize it's much smarter than you would imagine initially. I mean, there are no sacred cows here. I mean, they take down not only, pop stars, but I think the music industry as well. The fans too.
Oh yeah,
the fans who cling and worship these vacuous people. Entertainment shows they take a shot at, which is good. iTunes, U2 in particular, gets shot at. It just really is a great broadside against modern music. And I think the thing that really gives a lot of this, makes this effective, is the presence of the real people who are in it. I mean, this is shot as a documentary, and you have, comments, interview blurbs from Simon Cowell and Ringo Starr and Kanye West and Questlove and Mariah Carey. So having those people involved gives this whole thing a certain validity that ultimately makes it even that much funnier. I mean, when you have Ringo Starr talking about how Conor for Real is such a significant artist, that's funny stuff. And when you have Mariah Carey say how she related to Conor's song, I'm So Humble, that is funny as hell. Yeah. I mean, and my estimation of her went up a couple notches in that, okay, you get the joke. Yeah. So that stuff really helped me enjoy it. A lot of comedies like this is, it's a matter of having more, when they hit you with such a constant barrage of jokes. And this does, because it only runs 86 minutes.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like 86 minutes. It feels slightly longer.
Yeah, because there's so much in it. You have to just see what, the ratio of gags that work against the ratio of gags that don't. And there's far more here that work than don't. I think it's the funniest thing I've seen this year so far.
I love the rapper that they introduced, and I also love Justin Timberlake's cameo within the
film. A lot of great cameos here too, especially from Saturday Night Live alums.
And the songs are just so catchy.
They're catchy and so stupid. And another thing that I think is effective is that these stupid lyrics are delivered so sincerely as well. It makes it even that much funnier.
Sandberg, for me, has a very bright future ahead of him. He's bounced back much more than I expected him to from the last time I saw him, which was in that Adam Sandler movie that he did not too long ago.
That's my boy.
Yeah, that's my boy.
Well, then you haven't been watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
No, we still...
Which is brilliant.
I need to get on that.
Absolutely brilliant.
But yeah, I like this movie a great deal, and I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 stars because, I mean, with something that critiques the music industry that much, you can't help but give it a glowing review because they do it in a smart way. They do it in a way that is refreshing, and if, satires of this continue to be made, then, people will be more educated about their music, and that's something that I find very important and influential. So, Chuck, what's coming out next week that we can get excited about? Anything?
Can we get excited about? I don't know. The Conjuring.
Intelligence I know is soon, but.
Conjuring Part 2 is next week.
Okay.
Now You See Me Part 2 is
seen
next
the first
week. You're not missing a thing. And I think there's even another sequel next week. If I remember correctly, it's a weekend of 3 sequels. But yeah, I mean, I'm not excited about any of them, really. Let's see, what's the other third big release that's coming out?
If it's Ice Age, you'll laugh.
Oh, I'm sorry, no, it's worse than a sequel. Warcraft is coming out.
Oh, God, no.
So Conjuring 2, Now That You See Me 2, and Warcraft are next week. However, I know that the Art Theater is bringing in The Lobster next week.
Okay, then that's what we'll be talking about next week, The Lobster. That looked like a very intriguing film to me, and I know you were fascinated by it.
I've seen it, yes.
Oh, you've seen it, okay. So we'll be talking about The Lobster next week because none of the other movies sound even remotely interesting.
Well, we'll probably try to see something, one of those, though.
I don't know. I'm spoiled for choice in bad movies in that realm, really. So we'll see what the other film is next week, and we'll catch you right here on Real Reviews The Cinematic Undergrounds. Until then, you can find Chuck's work at thenewsgazette.com and in the IllinoisTimes.com, and you can find my work on wheelchairwatcher.com. We will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.